I think I saw a 27 on my card, but it's more like 25. I'm recording an order now. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome back for another episode of the Resurrector or Winners You podcast. Alex and I are both busy beavering away at Metal Gear Solid, so we don't have time. We don't have time to pod for Gasway today, so see you later. Nope. We don't have a game for you this week. But have no fear, we are here this week to discuss and rank our favourite sports game. No messing about, I'm just going to dive into the episode head first. So let's get our ears associated with our voices. Unchanged from birth, my name continues to be David, and sitting across from me this week is my partner in crime, Mr. Alex Aldridge. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm good. I get to sit up front because I'm a good guy at sports. Sports.
I'd actually written down here, are you ready to get down into the list making weeds? But given your other podcast pursuits, you don't really get out of the weeds, do you? You're sort of listing in some form or another your entire life. That's just what you are now.
Putting my opinions against the opinions of other people and then up to the public vote.
Yeah. In many ways, you're sort of dragging me down.
A massive mistake.
You're dragging me down to your listy level.
Well, it's not quite a list, is it? Because this is a competitive. Because it's.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I was making my list today, and I was like, right, do I pick the game I think would, in theory, win, or do I just pick a game that I thought was really cool? And I've
done 50-50 probably for that.
Yeah, I've sort of straddled the fence and sort of. What do you call? I wonder if this is a Scottish thing or a British thing or just a normal sort of English speaking thing. If you were walking along, let's say, a wooden post and you slipped and fell on said wooden post with your legs either side of the post, what would you call that?
What, like straddling it, you mean?
Yes.
What would I call?
So we would call it a postie.
Well, is that a thing then?
Yes.
Just like that happens regularly up in Scotland that people fall on posts.
So I had a friend that had to go to hospital because they posted themselves so badly and had to get a testicle removed. So yes, it does happen from time to time.
My wife told me a story, something similar to that, and it was something. I don't remember where the story came from, but there was an incident where some guy was like climbing something, probably a lamppost or whatnot, and he slid down it and like basically like cut his dick open and his ball sack on the way down, sliced it.
Oof.
Posty. I don't think there's a word for it.
Yeah, it would happen. And in less serious ones, friends would sort of dangle off the legs to make it worse. Because boys are horrible mutants, really.
Why are we talking about that? Did I say something? Did you think of that? I can't remember what we were talking about.
I can't remember. Oh, yeah, because I'm straddling between picking fun games and picking games that I thought might win. There's a couple of categories I was looking at, and I was like, I know exactly what game Alex is picking for that category.
So, before we go any further, just to let the listeners know, so this will be in some way similar to the regular like year drafts that we do, where we will each pick a video game. But what we're doing this time is there are 10 categories, all related to sports video games. David and I will pick one each, and then we'll have a list of 10 sports games each. And then we will put that vote out to you. So get the word out, get on Twitter at at Winner Is You Pod on X. And tell your friends to vote as well. Well, you pick the list of 10 games you prefer out of the two of us. We cannot pick the same game. You can pick the categories in any order. Speaking of orders, this is where I was leading to. Have you got like a beeline? Are you going to go anywhere? But I've actually like in my spreadsheet that I shared a copy of with you for you to put your picks in there. I have a gold, silver, and bronze categories that I'm going to go for in that order. If I feel they are worth doing in that order.
You've got a gold category that you need to get picked. You've got it. Okay.
I need to go first in there. But of course, you might pick your game from one of the other two that I've got, and then that might change things up.
I don't know.
So,
I guess there's probably.
do you feel like you've got a nip in there before me on anything?
Yeah, I'd say there's perhaps 2 that I feel like I've got to nip in there.
I thought 3, and then everything else I feel like you probably won't go near what I've put.
Yeah, well, this is also the thing. It's like, so I don't know what I know. I'll save this. I feel like I'll be showing my hand if I start saying this. So I'll wait until we've picked the category, and then I'll say what I was about to say. So put a pin in that.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to it. But yeah, there's a couple I want to dive in there and get first, I think.
Would you like to read out for the listeners the 10 categories?
Yes. So we have arcade sports game, football/soccer, I assume that is, game, an extreme sports game, a 16-bit or earlier sports game, a player licensed sports game, a motorsport game, a made-up sport game, a sports entertainment game. I tried to think out of the box for that.
Okay.
Didn't manage. Free pick.
The only reason it's not written as wrestling game is because I would have the word sport in there.
Fair.
Pretend it's a sport, because it's not a sport.
American sports game and free pick.
Yeah. Which surely we both leave till last. Unless there's the king of all sports games that I haven't thought of. Although, to be fair, I think I said to you in our WhatsApp chat that there's one for free pick that could probably draw in a lot of people's votes, I feel. And I've got it as my backup because I don't know if I feel dirty enough to take it.
Interesting. There's one I really want to pick. But it's also one that I think there's a chance I might get away with not picking it. So it's also like, do I wait and just try and wait till the sort of unleash it at the end or not? I'm not sure. It's going to be tough. How do we decide who gets the first?
I am going to, for the people watching at home, we have a Heads or Tails website,
nice.
And I will, as this is my idea, I will let David call it.
So I always go heads. Oh, I've got it's tails. It's tails.
Never fails.
Alex, you're up, mate.
Sports entertainment game, WWF No Mercy.
Strong start. So so the one for me in this game, I'm just using this as a vehicle basically to talk about games. The one I've got.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I've got, when I've made my list, I've got a number 1 pick, a number 2 pick, and then I've got a 3rd pick that I may want and wanted to just sort of make the decision at the sort of spur of the moment.
Yeah.
All three of the games on my list are, in my mind, amazing wrestling games. But I am going to, for the first pick out the bag, I'm going to deviate from what I had as my number 1 pick and go for my. Are you going straight into
sports entertainment as well, or are you going somewhere else?
Oh, I thought I had to.
No.
To.
No. Now you can go take something from me if you want to. Like, don't. You might as well leave sports entertainment game till way later, because what's the point? You got no competition now.
Okay, sorry. I thought you picked the category we both picked.
Oh no.
So you've gone WWF No Mercy.
Technical. How do you feel about you have 2 in a row and then it goes back to me and then we alternate from there?
Okay.
Does that feel fair? As I've gone first.
Yeah.
You can have 2 categories in a row now and then back to me, and then we'll just alternate fairly from that.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like that's the fairest way to do it.
WWF No Mercy is awesome. Then.
Oh, good God, yeah.
Did you waste
this was a struggle, though.
many a summer? Well, probably 1 or 2. It felt like many a summer, just making belts and fighting for them over and over again. So that's what I did pretty much.
The campaign mode was actually pretty good as well, even if apart from the ones that broke before they re-released it. It's just that, like, it's the ultimate of the N64 wrestling game genre, which I guess is kind of like a subgenre of wrestling games, really. The old THQ, Ukes, Aki Entertainment stuff with the, NWO Revenge and WWF WWF WrestleMania 2000 and this. 3 of the greatest wrestling games of all time. I mean, there are other great wrestling games as well, and some of the recent ones in the last 10 years have been pretty good, and I've played a lot of. But I think with a lot of these, like, it kind of feels, if you were to just be like, football game, FIFA 21, just feels weird. Like, no one thinks of modern sports game, like many modern sports
because they're so
games, like
iterative
ultimate
now, aren't they?
classics. Exactly. That's exactly it. So I'm probably going to go like classic heart picks for a lot of these.
I think
I feel like that is the best one still.
I may have picked up a bit of a sentence from you there, but yeah, to me, like when I was picking this sports entertainment genre, WWF No Mercy is one of the 3 games I've got written down here, but it was close. It is
Was it
like
the first,
it is a.
Would it have been your pick?
It would not have been my number 1 pick.
Okay.
It would have been my number 2. In talking picks, I'm going to go player licensed sports games. I guess, yeah, for my pick, I'm going to go for straight in at a player licensed sports game, and I'm going to select Tiger Woods PGA 2004.
Which was my choice. That's the first thing that comes straight to mind, I think, with player licensed games. It was like the king of them, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I know Kobe Bryant had a lot of NBA games. Obviously, I mean, could you say Madden? I don't know.
I guess.
He must have played at some point.
He was certainly a coach, so yeah. I guess it sort of broadly fits.
Yeah.
I guess part of the fun of this podcast is trying to argue, if you've got like a one that maybe doesn't quite fit, trying to argue it round and get it in there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of but Tiger Woods PGA 2004, I've again lost so many weekends playing that with friends. Create a golfer. It's actually a shame that golf games, I guess the 2K golf games that have somewhat rekindled like golf games, but that is still very much a game for the golf enthusiast. Whereas Tiger Woods crossed that sort of river into just being a good game for lots of fans of video games in general. It's just a shame that the EA games never managed to evolve in any way. I mean, the 2004 is still the best EA golf game going.
They've really not done anything of worth that I could think of. Like I've tried subsequent Tiger Woods games. They've never caught the same magic as this one. Like it even had like a really good soundtrack, and it had like a great control scheme with using like the analog stick and doing the spin in the air while the ball's going around and stuff. And the Happy Gilmore swing as well, which me and my friends always loved when you pull that off with the power shots and all that kind of stuff. It's just, it's perfect. It's an absolutely perfect golf game. I've never needed another one since.
Fully agree. Alex, where are you going next? I'm colour coding these so that I know what you've picked.
Well, this is tough. This is tough. Because I think there's one other category that we probably would fight over. But in thinking about it after I listed it, like I've really struggled to find the correct answer for what I think is either the best or the one that everyone would want to vote for. But I think I will. Yeah, I think I will go for an extreme sports game and go Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
You're going 2. Okay, so I
nearly went 3, but
I think for the fun of this category, I think that should preclude me from picking other Tony Hawk games.
Do you?
Yeah,
I don't think it should.
No? Okay. So I will unread that because that was not the Tony Hawk game I have in my list. So you've gone Tony Hawk 2.
Yeah. It was a close one. Yeah, it was a close one. I'd quite like to have a look at the soundtrack for that.
Soundtrack's important. It really is.
And, if anybody wants any clarity, we're going for the Dreamcast version. Do we have a soundtrack here?
That was the one that had...
So there's the one before Bam was in it, because Bam was in number 3. Because the soundtrack for 4 is really good as well.
They're all good, That essentially put me on to like that type of music, the Tony Hawk games, and just sort of changed my life in terms of music. I've never really looked back since.
Yeah. It kind of feels like potentially I could have picked the remake version of it. I suppose that probably wouldn't have.
Because that would have had. Yeah, they actually did a good job of going back and getting the music done, because that was always a sort of difficulty that they had, wasn't it? That they couldn't necessarily get the licenses.
Yeah, they had highlights from that soundtrack for me then. Blood Brothers, Papa Roach,
yes.
Guerrilla Radio, Rage Against the Machine. No Cigar by Millen Collin, May 16 Flagwagon. I
love that song. No Cigar is so good.
No Cigar's a classic. Absolute classic. So yeah, I think for me it's got the best levels in it. I've been playing a lot of 3 to get going for this one, because I assumed that 2 was your favourite and that you were going to pick it, so I had 3 and 4 as my 2 potentials, because I've probably played 4 the most, but probably told the story on this podcast before that I threw my GameCube controller into the console at one of the challenges on it because it was so difficult, and it ended up like popping the eject button out of the console, and it like flew across the room, and I had to go find it and pop it back in again. So yeah, 3 is really, really good. I've been playing it on the original Xbox, but the levels in that seem to start to get a little bit like overly convoluted, and some of the stuff like they were a lot bigger than I remember 1 and 2 being, apart from things like Downhill Jam and all that kind of stuff, or whatever it was. But yeah, you can't really go wrong 1 to 4. Every single one of them is really, really good. It's like an all-time classic.
Other than the obvious Tony Hawk Ride.
Shit, that was supposed to be your pick. You're supposed to do 2 in a row.
Oh well. We'll start now, or you? No, yeah, you do your second one.
Yeah, I guess just don't worry about it. If that wasn't going to be your pick anyway, we're fine. I'll just cut out the bit where I even said about it.
So am I picking now?
Yeah, so that's 2 for me. No Mercy and Tony Hawk's 2.
Okay.
Pretty happy with that.
There are so many good games in this category that I feel guilty even picking it right now. But I am going to pick a made-up sports game, and I'm going to select Speedball 2.
Brutal Deluxe.
Yeah. That alongside Rogue Legacy. Went Speedball 2 alongside Rogue Legacy, probably the 2 stand out down at Alex's mum and dad's house playing video games I can recall.
You lost me for a second there. I thought you were going to try and tell me that Rogue Legacy was somehow a sport. But no, you're right. That was in that one trip, wasn't it? Where you came down, we did some streams of Speedball 2, which I believe are still out there on the internet for people to watch if they want to see them screeching at each other. And then we played Rogue Legacy till the wee hours, taking it in turns, which was a superb time all round.
I would say like Speedball 2, legitimately. I know often older gamers will say, oh, it's still good, and a lot of the time you have to sort of caveat that with controls. Speedball 2 is genuinely still a great game.
Yeah, absolutely is. And it's just such a cool made-up sport as well.
Yeah.
Like kind of brutal fighting, handball, football crossover in the future.
It's very similar to what to doing to cross the podcast streams. It's very similar to in my head what Thrashball would be like. The old Coltrane.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, because I suppose there is kind of an American football element to like certainly how they look.
Yeah.
Because it does look like they are wearing that kind of Thrashball Coltrane uniform. Yeah. I knew you would pick that, and I was going to try and get in there with it, but then I realised, like...
There's so many good games.
I thought of something else. Well, I think, my obvious... Oh, well, initially I thought my obvious second pick was Rocket League, but because I've grown to hate Rocket League, even though I loved it for a long time, I've decided that I'm happier with something else that I thought of. But I'm interested to hear what else you have to talk about before I pick mine later on, because there's not a category I necessarily thought was full of great stuff.
Yeah, but the problem I have for a made-up sports game is I have 3 games. Like I say, I've got 3 games in this category, and 2 of the 3 games reappear in the free pick category. So I have to keep my powder dry for that, I'm afraid.
Okay. Right, okay. I know what I'm going for my... That was your second, wasn't it?
That was my second.
My third game, I am going to go for an arcade sports game, and I'm going to go for NBA Jam Tournament Edition.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd get any pushback from you for it, though, because I don't know how much of an NBA Jam guy you are.
I'm not an NBA Jam guy at all. So this is partly like back at the beginning of the podcast when I was talking about, do I pick based on what I think will win versus what I want to play? And NBA Jam was one of those that I was like, that is, if you're playing the game, that is the pick for this category. And I was like, my experience of NBA Jam is when we went to Leeds. Yeah, that's the only time I've ever played that game, and I had a horrible time because I didn't know the buttons, didn't know what was happening, and you were clearly very good at the game.
Yeah, there's like a thing you have to tell your brain that the other player on your team is fully AI controlled, but you can still make it shoot or pass to you. But it's really hard to get in that mindset and not press buttons and make it do things wrong. And yeah, I'm fully with you that it's got a bit of a learning curve. For an arcade game, it's not as pick up and play as you'd think.
I do think though,
solo 2 players different.
Yeah, if you had a couple like a mate or two, or like say like 4 mates that were all really into the game, that would be the kind of game I would be hunting down an arcade machine for, so that I could have friends round, crack the beers open, and just play some NBA Jam. And that's the kind of environment I think I would like it. But yeah, I just experienced it in the wrong way. I wouldn't hold that against the game, but I felt also at the same time felt like I couldn't pick it because I couldn't claim to be a fan of the game.
Yeah, you could just do it to fuck me over, which would be completely acceptable. NBA Jam Tournament Edition is for me like the best version of the original 16-bit ones, but it just reminds me of like when I had my Sega Multi-Mega. I was just getting into basketball as well because the balls were so hot back in the day, and it became like it was brought over to the UK like really aggressively because of Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and it just like all tied that together with me. So it's just, I've got loads of good memories of playing loads of it as a kid. It's honestly part of why I really want to get into the game and just sort of learn it and be better at it and have a bit better of an understanding of it, because like we were chatting today earlier via text, and I had said that we're talking about Metal Gear Solid, and I was saying that the conversations and the way that the characters interact versus like the action and stuff on the screen, it gives me that like 90s movie vibe. Yes.
And I've got a real soft spot for that whole thing. So it's like in my head, it's like if I'm trying to like put like a visualization to the vibe that just gives me that nice feeling inside me, it's like the 90s movie. It's like the sweeping camera shot of going over like 90s America with the lights and the big tall buildings and stuff like that, and wrapped up in that is like the Bulls doing their back-to-backs, and like so like that is the game of that feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need to learn this game. I do need to get to it one day, but yeah, I couldn't have picked it because it would feel disingenuous to me.
There have been some really good subsequent ones as well. NBA Hang Time on like the N64 I really enjoyed. There's one on the Dreamcast, and I can't remember what it was, but I think that one of the Dreamcast was like the last one that Midway did, and that's really good as well. And even like the one that they re-released on the Xbox 360 like 10 years ago was really good. I remember I played that quite a lot with a guy I was friends with at uni. We tried playing it online and got fucking whooped over and over again. I was so disappointed. But yeah, classic.
Interestingly though, this is...
Have we had any crossover yet? We haven't, have we? So we've done 6 categories now. They've all...
Yeah.
Was it 5? Sorry, this is your third, isn't it?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 6th, yeah. So this is my third. But this is, interestingly, this is one that I think is the correct pick and my favourite within the category. And I'm going to go for an American sports game, and I'm going straight for NHL 94.
Okay. That's, I think you're going to get some voters flock into that.
I think so. If I'm talking about like, games that I think are genuinely like good sports games, I think actual like modern, genuinely good sports games are quite few and far between these days.
Agreed.
But the one that is actually genuinely good is the NBA 2K series. So that was sort of my fallback if that had gone wrong for that one, because those are legit amazing games, really really good, and they teach you how to they teach you about basketball in a way that
Yes,
most modern sports games don't. But NHL 94 is so good. It's just arcadey fun.
but at the time it was serious shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
It's a sim game from '94, but now it's a full-on arcade.
Yeah.
I just really struggle to be good at it.
Mm.
Like, I'll talk about a hockey game later on, I think. No, I will. And it's going to lose me this draft, I'm pretty sure, but I don't give a shit.
Is it the grass hockey? Is it a grass hockey game that you're about to pick?
There must be. That is a
air
good
hockey?
question. It might be in some Olympic games or something. There's a great air hockey game, and I need to try and remember what that was, because I used to play that as a kid on the Amiga, and I was, again, terrible at it, but it was... Oh, that's going to drive me nuts. But, yeah, I've gone back and tried to play NHL 94. I think I've got 96 on my Mega CD. Just can't score. Like, just cannot fucking score. Just get like 50 shots per game and none of them go in. The keepers are just a wall. They're impenetrable. Did you try the? You probably even told me about it. The they just had like one in the last couple of years, like an NHL 94.
Yeah,
remake.
Loved it.
On the
I'm really looking forward to. There is an NHL. It's in early access at the moment, and there's far too many games at the moment that I have even time to worry about early access games. But when it gets a full release, I'm going to look at it. There's a roguelike NHL, ice hockey game coming out that sort of looks like a modern take on NHL 94 that I'm quite excited to give a go to.
Yeah, it's like a roguelike. Did you just say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Cola.
Yeah, I've had my eye on that as well, and I've downloaded some kind of early access demo for it, but
too many games
haven't actually given it a go. Yeah.
Too many games. You're up next, mate.
So
where's he going?
The game that I was talking about, the air hockey game on the Amiga that I was talking about, was called Shuffle Puck Cafe.
Shuffle Puck Cafe, what a name.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. Like, it was like you were like playing air hockey against like Vikings and monsters and stuff. It was
amazing.
Yeah, really fucking crazy.
So what was
anyway?
What were the controls like? Was it like bust a move left to right? Like how did it work?
I really just think it was keyboard, just left and right on a keyboard.
It's essentially
maybe
like
back and forward as well.
Pinball Arcade, the shuffle puck game.
Yeah.
When I was on a cruise, talking about weird games that I think is actually maybe fairly common in America, I don't know, but when I was on a cruise, I ended up playing this game with an American girl where it's this sort of metal puck thing, and it's on a wooden board with sand on it, and you've got to roll the puck and try and make it stop in the point zone. Oh my god, it's so good. But that is not a game that exists in the UK. I think it's called Shuffleboard, maybe? Shuffle?
Yeah, that probably... Yeah, there's a pub in Cambridge that I've been to a few times called the Tivoli, and that has shuffleboard there, but it's quite expensive. But I think that's what you're talking about.
Does that sound like what I'm describing? Such a fun game.
I've not played it because it's too expensive. They've got like an indoor mini golf as well. It's pretty cool. I bet you will find a shuffleboard place up in Glasgow when we go. I bet you there'll be something.
Hopefully, because it's not something. Honestly, it's not something I've ever seen in the UK, and we're missing out. We are missing out.
Yeah. Have I told you recently about my desire to play pickleball?
What is that?
I think it's called pickleball.
Pickleball.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Never even heard of that.
Yeah, pickleball.
What do you do with it?
It's kind of like a mix between table tennis and actual tennis that you play on a tennis court, but you've got like the bats are kind of like the halfway house between a tennis racket and a table tennis racket.
Cool.
Bat. And you have like a little wiffle ball, and you You basically stand really close either side of the net, but it's really hard to find places that do it in the UK. I bet you'll fucking have one up where you are.
A cool game we invented.
Really fun.
I was on a stag weekend once, and we had rented it was during COVID, so we had sort of no, it wasn't during COVID. It was during COVID, but it was during one of the breaks in lockdowns, and we hired out a big house in the middle of the countryside, and it came with access to a tennis court. So a lot of the days were spent at this tennis court playing football on the tennis court, but it was tennis but football. And
I've done that many.
People got very competitive and addicted to that game. That like took over a lot of the day. That is a fun game as well.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, as a sort of late teenager, going down to the local tennis courts, but going in with a football and just doing it like that as well. So fun.
It's so good.
Yeah,
underrated.
God, this is making me want to play sports. I don't know where to go next. This is my fourth pick.
So can I do a quick roundup? Make sure I'm following this properly. So you do have three. You've got arcade sports game, in which you picked NBA Jam. You've got an extreme sports game, which you picked Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and you've also got a sports entertainment game where you picked WWF No Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
You have.
I have an American sports game. I picked NHL 94. Made up sport game. I picked Speedball 2. A player licensed sports game. I picked Tiger Woods PGA 2004. And next up is Alex with...
I think I'm going to go for a motorsport game.
Oh, interesting.
Which I don't think I'll get any competition for, but I'm going to go for Heart. Is it Heart? I don't know. I'm going to go Sega Rally 2.
Oh, good one. That was none of the three I had picked. So I'm about to delete my honourable mention so that I can write down Alex's pick for that. My honourable mention was the Forza Horizon series.
Yeah, because I don't think we discussed this as well, like trying to put it down to like actual motorsports rather than just a racing game. So taking out things like Gran Turismo and all that, because that's not really a sport. It's just like a made up thing.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah, like street racing doesn't really count as a sport. So we're kind of thinking, like rally, Formula One, NASCAR, that kind of stuff.
Okay. That knocks out my first pick.
Does it?
So it means I have to go for pick 2.
We can discuss
I'm more than happy with my pick 2. It was one of the first games I ever got 1,000 achievements for on Xbox 360, in fact.
I think that may have been my backup from what you've just said there. You're talking about. So yeah, Sega Rally. I think I got it with my Dreamcast when I was a kid, and it blew me away. Like the graphics on it were so good, the music's really, really good, and it was just a totally different type of racing game to anything I'd played before, because I hadn't really played a lot by that point. It was more like I'd played some Mario Kart or whatever.
I do think there's something to be said for rally racing games specifically and how good they are. I often wonder though.
Yeah.
Do you know who's the developer for Sega? Well, Sega, I assume. Is it an in-house developed video game? Because I've often sort of, I don't know if I ever vocalize this, but I often sort of have the narrative in my head that Codemasters make some of the best racing games, and
they do.
They tend to be rally game makers, and I think there's something to be said for the rally game that is just really, really fun. Do you think part of it is because there are few things more satisfying than hitting a corner perfectly where you just sort of skid around and then carry on?
Exactly that. Drift, like learning how to get the drifts right and stuff, and like a perfect handbrake turn when you're going around one of those red corners with the old the guy in Sega Rally sitting there chatting to you like long, easy right, maybe, and all this kind of shit.
And the more you play it though, you actually do start sort of tuning in and paying attention to what he's saying and actually like acting upon what he's saying as you're going through the course, which I think is really good. It's a really, I don't know, it sounds silly to say because of course it's there for a reason, but it's something that when you're playing a racing game for the most part, whether it's like Forza or Gran Turismo or something like that, I am finding I just look ahead and you brake when the corners come. Whereas when in a rally game and they're calling out the type of corner, that eventually dictates how you enter the corner, and I think that's a really, really cool mechanic that I enjoy.
Yeah, based off of, I guess, how the co-driver or whatever you're called, the passenger in a rally, actual rally event would probably talk to you. And there's few things more satisfying than sitting in a arcade cabinet playing some Sega Rally, because you're just swinging your arms around when you're taking those crazy corners and it's vibrating the shit out of you. Love it.
Apparently,
all-time classic.
And I can't remember where I'm pulling this information from, so take it with a pinch of salt. But apparently, it's one of the most stressful sports you can take part in, and it's got like quite a high sort of heart problem rate.
Really?
Yeah, because it's such a stressful sport.
I mean, actually watching rally looks terrifying.
Yeah.
If I try and imagine myself doing that, it's like scares the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, randomly, and I have no idea how, but randomly out of nowhere, many years ago, I ended up being like a sort of warden on the Scottish National Rally Championships. So my job was, when they finish a stage, my job was to go up to the car, get the paper from the driver that had their time on. They must have picked their time up down the road a wee bit. They come up to me, I take their timer and then like store it so that they can sort of judge the times and see who's winning what. And someone died on that event that I was at, and apparently someone dying is not uncommon because it's such a stressful sport. But
a driver or a spectator?
A driver, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, even standing at the sides watching it gives me anxiety looking at it.
Oh, you don't have to go far. Yeah, you don't have to go far down your YouTube tool to see some absolutely horrific videos, do you? Where if like people are like, oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, you sign up for it as the spectator. Surely that's part of what you expect to happen. But
you've got to keep your wits about you. Yeah,
back.
You just got to keep your wits about you.
Yeah.
And now it's my turn.
Fourth one. What are you going for?
So my options open here. I've unpicked categories. I've got my free pick. There's a 16-bit or earlier sports game, or we have a football/soccer game.
Yeah.
I suspect a football/soccer game, we're going to pick the same game.
Okay.
Or maybe not. Well,
I guess that's one you want to steal then, isn't it? If you think
I think so. For some reason, I'm being drawn toward a 16-bit or earlier sports game, and I'm going to select Sensible Soccer for that.
Oh, you've taken my football game.
I thought I may have. I did think I might have.
Nicely done.
It's got to be that. I mean, that's a classic. That's another one that's still fun. It's a good arcade game that is still fun today. And people that are good at that game can do things with the ball that I think is absolutely amazing that I didn't know could be done when I played this game as a kid.
Yeah. It was what an Amiga joystick was made for me.
Yeah.
Just like wrenching that fucker to just get it to like swerve something right out the other end of the pitch. Like that would seem to be I swear that was like my tactic. It'd be like from the goal kick, I would you have to sort of pull back, don't you, to get the uplift on it.
Yeah.
And then like swerve it to the left. I would try and like do a massive goal kick to halfway line, get one guy to do a diving header to like knock it further forward to one of the strikers, pass it to the other one, and then try and curl it outside towards the edge of the post and in for like over and over and over again. Endlessly playable because you can like edit every single team and change all the names.
Yes.
You can just make it really up to date. I think actually when I was writing for Sega Mania about Sensible Soccer on the Mega Drive, there are screenshots in that magazine of me having made the current Tottenham lineup.
Amazing.
Whenever year it was. So you can kind of see like fucking Harry Kane and stuff all over the game. But
honestly though, like that is part of to me that's part of the memory though. It's funny because it's very much like WWF No Mercy that you picked in your first pick earlier on, in that like until Pro Evo came along on the PlayStation and allowed you to download an update and plug a USB stick into the console and update all the teams and the strips. Like part of the fun in that game, and honestly there's many a game like that I have spent, Sensible Soccer included, spent more time in the editor than I have actually playing the game, updating players and strips so that they match.
Yeah.
I just remember like it wasn't actually Sensible Soccer, but it's a memory that I love my cousin and I sitting at my grand's house for an entire day one summer holidays on Super Soccer on the SNES, going through the World Cup, France '98 World Cup annual that we had, just updating, going through all the players and updating every single team so that we could just sit and play. I don't even know if we played it after that.
You probably had no time left.
No.
Taking your whole weekend.
That was it.
You used to do a really cool thing on, I don't even know what it was, FIFA or something with your mate, didn't you? Where you did didn't you do like leagues where you had to pick players or something? I swear you did something.
Yeah. We on teams. FIFA we would when they brought because the editor disappeared in FIFA for many years and then it came back. So we would create a save and we would clear. I would take Man United and we would clear the squad. And then you would you would make a career mode, and when you go into the career mode, you can see players' value, and we'd have say like £100 million to spend, and we'd go through the value, like sort of the buy a player value in the career mode and buy players, and then sign them to our squad. And then we had like a relegation stuff, like we had like multiple divisions in which we like randomised the people going up and down, and then we had transfers. At one point this got so nerdy, we had like a dice rolling system that was involved in like player negotiation of a contract. So it's like, say like I bought Ronaldo and I wanted to keep him, I'd have to go into contract negotiations and I'd have to roll the dice, and that the rolling dice would be how successful the contract negotiations were, and that would eat into your budget if you wanted to keep him, and that would say like how interested he was in terms of like signing back on a new contract and stuff like that. We went off the deep end. That was back in the days when I was watching and loving Mr. Kennedy win the Intercontinental title in WWE.
Nice. When you told me that you were doing that with your mate, I was so jealous of it. Like rookie shit we were pulling on my house, nowhere close to that level of interest and investment in your squad and stuff. That was such a cool idea.
Got so carried away. It was great though. That was a really great year that we played that game.
That's definitely put a cat amongst the pigeons in the football game category. I'm gonna have some serious thinking about that, because I think it's one of two for me, but I'm gonna avoid it for now.
You're gonna avoid the football category?
Yeah, well, there's no point now. You've taken sensible soccer out of it, so I think I'm probably happy enough with what I could pick instead. There's just several things now where I just don't think you're going to touch what I would touch, so it doesn't actually matter what I go for anymore. I don't think you'd take that from me. I'm pretty happy with my lineup so far that I think I'd get votes for it. So let's go for... I might as well just pick a category that hasn't been touched yet, which I believe would be the last category, because we've only got one to go. Oh no, you've just done 16-bit, haven't you?
Yeah, we've technically got two categories left.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna go free pick then.
Okay.
And I very nearly went for the game that I talked about earlier, and if you don't go for it, I will bring it up and we'll probably lament not picking it for the win. But my free pick is going to be Virtua Tennis.
Oh, great shout! So I'm going to delete my third pick that was just like a left of field. So before you go into Virtua Tennis, I'm deleting Blood Bowl.
Oh, okay.
That
was for free pick, was it?
That was for free pick. Yeah, I thought that is a cool game, but we're not here. We're here to talk Virtua Tennis. That is maybe the best tennis game they've ever made. That's ever been made.
I think so. Maybe other than the sequel, I don't know. But yeah, for me, Virtua Tennis is. I never need another one.
See,
it still holds up so well. To be fair, the original Mario Tennis on the N64 is very, very good, and that would have potentially been a thought of mine. But this just feels more legit. And again, just an absolute powerhouse on the Dreamcast. Looked gorgeous, ran beautifully, and the controls are so simple. It's just fucking awesome.
There are. See, if they nail a tennis game, there are a few things better than an absolutely nailed tennis game. And if you play against someone that is same level as you are,
yep.
I don't know what it is about, because I don't particularly like tennis as a sport, but playing a tennis game there's when they nail it, they really nail it, and it is so good.
Yeah, and you're right about that whole just having a really intense tennis match with somebody where it feels like no one's ever going to lose a point or whatever. Because the Mario Tennis on the GameCube, famously in my group of friends, my friend Simon has never ever beaten me at Mario Tennis on the GameCube.
That's a dangerous record to have.
As long as we've been friends.
That would give me stress.
You just can't do it.
That would give me stress. I'd almost want to lose just so I could get that.
Not as much stress as it gives him, trust me. Just every time you can just see it get deflated when he knows he's not going to get the win. So fun.
Has he ever given you some good games? Has he ever given you some games? Like,
yeah, probably. He's probably won a few sets.
Okay.
But to be fair, I can barely ever beat him at Street Fighter, so that's one of our rivalry games. I just can't. I can't touch him at that anymore. We used to be quite evenly matched, but I can't get near him now.
Does he still play Street Fighter? Is he like a fighting game?
He might do. I don't know. We have this like stable of stuff that we always used to play when we hung out back in the day. It'd be like Mario Tennis, F-Zero X, Monkey Bowling, and Mario Tennis. So
telling you, I say this every time a fighting game comes up. We're gonna have to find a way to tie fighting games into a winner's use so that you and I can, me especially, can get our. It's just a genre of video game I am completely unaware of.
I mean, yeah, Street Fighter 6 with its career mode seems like the best one to do because it's going to ease you in, but who knows? But yeah, that's my free pick. I don't. Well, as your reaction tells me, you probably wouldn't have taken that from me, but I wanted to just doubly make sure.
Yeah, that's a sensible one. Just because it's the only unpicked category now, I'm going to pick, and I was trying to remember the best one, and I think it's Pro Evo 4 that I'm going to go for under the football game genre.
See, that's what I assumed as well. That certainly is probably my favourite Pro Evo of all time that I have, well, other than the 2021 version from like 20... It's actually the 2019 version that I still play on my PS5 now when I'm editing podcasts and stuff because they've killed it with eFootball. Like, Pro Evo 4
the state of modern football games is so upsetting.
Yeah, it really is.
Given how like global and massive a sport it is, there's one game in town and it's average.
You're right. Yeah, it's kind of killed itself.
Yeah.
But Pro Evo 4 is so pure. It's so quick. It's so like easy to pick up and play.
It's a game.
Dribble through everybody.
Exactly. To me, it's a game that remembers it's a video game.
Yeah.
And I think that's important when it comes to video games. You obviously want games to look fantastic and things like that, but like FIFA just seems to be on a mission to, well, it's not FIFA anymore. EAFC. No. They need to find a better name. That's awful. Yeah, EAFC.
So like as you said, what do you abbreviate that to?
Yeah.
I'm going to go play EA. EA what?
It's like 4 letters and like 4 syllables, isn't it? So it's like it's awful to try and pronounce.
It's so bad.
On my list, though, I also had I'd written down Football Manager 14 without much interest in actually picking it because I was like, I have put. I think I saw my Steam library the other day, and it was like 2,500 hours into that game. So I have played a lot of that game, and I adore it. And then I was thinking, like, everybody's got their, like, I feel like, oh, maybe this is not true, but everyone's got like peak, like, this is the football game I was best at, and for me it was FIFA 10. That was the one I was best at, so that was third on my list.
That's the one I think that came back, like where FIFA came back.
Yes,
it may actually be the first year they did Ultimate Team, or at least one of the very earliest ones they did it in, and I remember actually really loving that as a concept back then. But yeah, I remember FIFA 10 maybe the first time that I switched back from Pro Evo to FIFA because that was just the way the wind was blowing for a few years.
I know we've spoken about this, like Ultimate Team. If it hadn't become the egregious sort of slot machine gambling thing, like the actual idea of it is awesome. Being able to build your own team. When you eventually get to the, well, in previous ones, I don't know what it's like recently, but you get to the point where you've always got sort of income of money, so you can sort of go in like going on the transfer list and like buying players. Oh, it's so good. They just ruin it by trying to coax money out your wallet too often.
Out of stupid kids, yeah, exactly. Because the first few years, I mean, there probably has always had a real world money investment in it, because I remember kids buying Microsoft points in Blockbuster when I worked there, and I knew what they were doing it for. Although sometimes it was to buy themselves a new Xbox gamer tag because they'd been banned, and I told their parents. But yeah, there was just like, it felt really pure at the start. Like you didn't really need to put any actual money in it to have a good team.
Yeah.
And then there'd be a few years where I'd change it every single year. So like the first time I'd be like, right, I'm going to do an ultimate team of purely Italian league players. And I think I did a German league one. And then I think one year when I knew I wasn't going to play a lot of it online, I did any player that had played for Spurs but wasn't a Spurs player anymore.
Oh, that's a fun one. I remember that actually.
Yeah, like Bale and Modric.
It's a great idea.
Stuff. Yeah.
Maybe there's a fun few weeks we can have when FIFA eventually comes to Game Pass. We can both say, right, let's put a tenner in Ultimate Team. We'll buy some packs and then see what team we can make. And anything else from then on, you have to use in-game earned coins. Maybe that's a fun way to play.
Yeah, and then just play each other and not worry about
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. Been a long time since I played a FIFA game. But
He'd still batter me. I remember you're far better at FIFA than I am.
I won a works tournament at FIFA once.
Nice.
One of my first job after uni, I won a FIFA tournament. That was great. Beat the guy 5-1 in the final. That was heated. There was some heated FIFA shit in that office. Having that Xbox 360 in the break room, every time you go in there, people will be playing it and yelling at each other and stuff. So good.
I love it when a game
5 each, isn't it?
Yeah. It's nothing better than when a game sort of grabs like a group of people like that.
Yeah. I think I need another rum. So for the lols, because I think you said there were so many good games in this category, and I don't know if you'd have picked maybe this one. For made-up sports game, I am going to go for Windjammers.
That was number 2 on my list. What
was it? Okay.
What a game that is.
Yeah.
I remember we got a beer and invited in to play a pre-release versus Windjammers 2 in Cologne one year. That was and I was going to swear there unnecessarily. That was a highlight. That was really good. They had like built their booth up to be like a living room where they had like a sofa and they had decorated it like a fancy living room. And yeah, you just got to sit and speak to the developers while you played some Windjammers. That was so good. Then the game went missing for like a year or so, didn't it? It took a while to come out.
Yeah, it didn't disappoint though, did it?
No.
I think it's a really good game that they brought out there. That was .emu, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Good beer, good guys, good game.
Yeah, they did.
The original Windjammers as well is a jam.
Yes,
literally.
it is awesome. So good. Disc Jam, is it Disc Jam Vendetta or something like that? Is another one that was really good, but that was like because there was a big Windjammer shaped hole in the market that sort of filled. And that was a good game as well, but it was no Windjammers. And Rocket League is the other one that's the obvious,
of course,
made up sports game.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to earlier that I now hate and don't want to talk about it. Is this just me being like fanciful and whatever, or was Giant Bomb like a big driving force behind the Windjammers getting?
Yes, they absolutely love that game. Specifically, Jeff Gersman, I think, was the man behind that. Yeah, very often that would pop up on Professional Fridays where they would sit and have a beer and play some Windjammers for an hour or two.
Yeah.
So good. It was them that put that game on my radar, and I was like, "Oh, this game looks fantastic."
Yeah,
and it was
beautiful as well.
Yeah,
still looks really nice.
Yeah, it's got to be. If you were to make a list of like top 10, well, maybe you wouldn't even get 10, but certainly like best IPs to come out of France, Windjammers is maybe up there.
Is that where the original's from?
Yeah, .emu's French.
Oh yeah, they are. But who made the original?
Yeah, it is a French thing. I don't know. But I'm picking this up from Jeff, so we could maybe look it up. But yeah, probably since we're on a podcast rather than me just blurt. Pretty sure it's a French.
Data East.
Data East. Are they maybe not French actually then?
Japanese.
No.
I thought it was Japanese because it was on the Neo Geo.
So I'm trying to think where I've got that France
Well, that's .emu. They're French.
Perhaps
And they did
then
the port of it.
perhaps that's where the audience for the game sort of survived as well. Then,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh well, speaking shit as I am wont to do. So you've gone Windjammers and made up sports game. I guess I can just sort of work my way through the list now.
A nice leisurely stroll through it.
A nice leisurely stroll. So arcade sports game. This is the one back to the correct choice is NBA Jam if you want to win. But I've gone for a game that is near and dear to my heart. Track and field. International Track and Field 64 specifically is the one for me. Love a track and field game. Really, really good. I just don't want to play it on my controller. I want to play it on someone else's. Because they're so brutal. But yeah, that game.
You're not one of the spoon users, are you?
No. Only the only time I would sort of cheat was the shot put. Because on the N64 controller I would roll on my bedroom floor. And then get shouted at from my mum because she could obviously hear it below me.
I feel like something needs to be taken when we go for up north and we stay in these Airbnbs.
As in,
I'm very tempted to bring my Saturn and we could play Athlete Kings.
What is
I've
that?
never really touched. It's basically updated version of Track and Field,
Awesome.
but by Sega.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because I think we've got quite some, some reasonably nice looking places to stay this time. So
yeah, well, they'll have a TV. So
yeah,
that'll do.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where we get there. There'll be no SCART lead in it, and we'll be fucked.
Almost certainly.
What fucking game is it? International Track and Field. Yes. Yeah, the game probably. Of every game in this entire thing will probably be the one that we fail to be able to play first in life as we get older.
Yeah.
Just when button bashing becomes something that you have to go to the doctor about the next day. Track and field is over for everyone.
I'm now at the stage that I've sat in the toilet. So what was the game that did it? I can't remember, but it was when I worked for a charity, did not like the job, was not very good at it. I used to sit in the toilet playing a game, and to this day now, if I play a lot of phone games, I get a sore thumb. It's just a bad, it's a sign when you're getting old when you get repetitive strain injury from moving your thumb around a phone screen.
Yeah, I used to pride myself on button bashing in my friendship group. I was always the winner.
Same. Yeah, I
had this really weird like muscle spasm thing that I used to try and do rather than actually do it quickly. I'd like sort of spasm my muscles and like strain and basically shit my fucking guts out.
Big vein across your head.
Hanging it. Yeah, because I could make my hand twitch so quickly through like spasming it that I was like, no one could touch me. Certainly not while I was doing it, because I probably would have exploded on them. But I feel like that's not a wise move anymore, because incontinence will come knocking at the door.
Yeah, I was going to say you will soil yourself in some fashion.
Yeah, I'll at least get a hernia or something from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bet.
Just don't. If you're gonna do it, make sure your daughter's out of the house so she doesn't see her dad shit himself.
Yeah, while he's like looks like he's having some kind of fit in front of a PlayStation game. Or all the spoons are up in his room because he's slamming it at the buttons to try and run quicker in a 100-meter sprint. Jesus Christ. Track and field, though, everybody knows it. Like, even my wife, like, if I talk about that, she'll be like, oh yeah, I remember playing that on the PlayStation.
So much fun. I mean, it even made it into, I remember I went to see Russell Brand in Glasgow many, many years ago, and that was even part of his stand-up routine, was talking about people playing track and field on TV. He spent about 10 minutes doing probably very similar movement to what you've just described across the stage. So it's made it to the mainstream. We've made it, guys. Video games are here.
Yes. Right, what have I... This is number 7 for me, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the player licensed sports game, and I'm going to go with the timeless Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey on the Nintendo.
Good
64.
one.
Just like one of my favorite. It is an arcade game, really, but it's got Wayne Gretzky's name to it, so it counts. This was one of the things that me and my friends always used to play that I didn't mention earlier. There was always like a thing in the game where you could press A and B together as you were doing like a build up, and basically one of your players would pass it to the other, and then he would immediately, as he received the puck. And if somebody scored a goal like that, where it was like hit across the face of the goal and tapped in at the corner, every time we'd be like, "Did you AB it?" We'd be like, "Yeah, I AB'd it." It just became like, for some reason, that was a phrase in our friendship. Make sure you AB it. But like, you know, video games that have like turbo in them are always going to win, especially in sports. So this one was great. You press the turbo button, you'd like do a zoom ahead. If you held down the turbo button whilst doing your shot, the puck would go on fire sometimes, and then it would like burn through the keeper, and you'd get smashed into the goal, fly away. Sometimes the keeper would turn into a literal brick wall and just block it. It was mad. And the NHL Hits series that came out afterwards is also really fucking good as like a spiritual successor to it from Midway. So that was in contention as well for things like arcade sports or American sports games. But Wayne Gretzky, I don't think it really scored that well. I think the arcade version was very popular, but the N64 one was kind of, you know, a 7 out of 10 kind of jobby. But for me, it's just pure blistering speed and just so much fun. Like, I just love it.
That's a great shout.
Still playing, it still holds up.
I had to dive in on a player licensed sports game in Pit Tigers because this is one of the categories I really struggled on. I think my backups were, I actually thought about Ronaldo v Football, which is not a good game, and then I was like, can I argue that Tony Hawk is a player licensed sports game because there's competitions in it? I was like, possibly, but I feel like that was one I was like, oh, it's maybe not the spirit of the game. So yeah,
do you know what? I knew you were going to pick Tiger Woods, and I wanted to kind of play it to a game that I actually genuinely really, really love. Although I do love this other game, but one of the ones I was thinking about doing as like a cheeky arsehole pick would have been Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on the NES.
I did think about that. I actually thought about that in was it the 16-bit category as well? I thought about that when I was like looking around, but yeah, ultimately it didn't make it. But Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is not a bad shout. Was it Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? Because they dropped the Mike Tyson at some point, didn't they?
They did.
What was the story? Can you remember the story behind that? Because I cannot.
It may have been the controversy surrounding him when it came to be released over here. I don't know if that's actually the case. No, probably not actually. I think maybe just they had a contract with him and it ran out by the time it was released overseas, so we didn't get him over here. We got like Mr. Dream or something instead at the end. It basically just looks like the Macho Man. Maybe it is the Macho Man. I don't know. But yeah, I'm really not sure why that license went away. But along those lines of like boxing games, I actually think it's really funny. The whole like after he lost to Buster Douglas? Is that who he lost to?
Who? Tyson?
Yeah. Somebody knocked Mike Tyson out, and like I think he was the first person maybe to beat him in a professional fight or something, and he won the world title off him, and Sega like signed the guy up to a huge contract to make boxing games for him, and then he like lost his title in the very next fight and was terrible. They just shit the bed by backing the wrong horse. Hang on, is it Buster Douglas Mega Drive? Oh, it's going to be Genesis, isn't it? Sega game. Yeah, James Buster Douglas Knockout Boxing. Yeah. Sega made it after he beat Mike Tyson, and then he never basically won a big money fight ever again.
Oops.
Yep. But I mean, in this one, like I said, there were some Kobe Bryant basketball games. I guess Rory McIlroy had the PGA license after a while. It was quite. You could probably go back like way back and get quite a lot of golf people, like Arnold Palmer, I think, had a golf game.
Yeah. I'm
You
sure
could
I
do
did
fucking
that.
Jimmy White's Whirlwind Snooker.
You could.
if you want.
You could, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Steven Gerrard, like, five-a-side game as well.
Yeah.
Was it
There'll
Steven?
be a lot of football games that we've never heard of.
Yeah. There will be. I guess I'm just going to move along the list now.
My player license.
Yeah, I'm just moving on the list now. So I'm on extreme sports. I thought there was a few here that I thought about. I thought about 1080 snowboarding. That's a shout.
Yeah.
Cool Borders
SSX
is SSX.
Yeah.
Cool Borders was another one that I really Cool Borders 2 for me was the one. I'm going to go very similar
Dead or
to
Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball.
Oh yeah, very extreme. I'm going similar to you though.
XXX.
Oh yeah, beer.
I'll stop
Yeah.
now.
Okay. I'm going similar to you though, but I am going to select Tony Hawk's Underground is my favourite.
Ooh,
Extreme
really?
sports. Yeah, I love the campaign in that game. They basically Pokemon you and basically like set you up against your best friend through school, and then you both get signed on, then he becomes your rival, and then he does you over, and then you've got to sort of, you go from the top skateboarder and then sort of have to just become this underground skateboarder, and then it finishes with you having to complete this ridiculous line that took me untold hours to do. But yeah, Tony Hawk's Underground was good. It's the first game I remember, one, you could get off your board, and then two, that like they actually injected like a proper, I want to call it a campaign, but like a proper story to it, rather than just like collect tapes and go through different worlds. I loved it. And you got to pick your team as well, so like I ended up like going about with Bam and stuff like that. In my head I just felt like I was a cool kid hanging out with Bam.
Yeah.
Loved that game.
Yeah. I've never actually really played through that properly, so this is like been some of my priorities for this new Xbox, like original Xbox collection I'm getting, is to get the underground games and give them a proper go. Yeah, it does look really. I have played some of it before, but only in like at a friend's house kind of thing.
And even
Didn't expect you to say that one though.
Did you have anything you were expecting?
I thought you were going to take 2 because we did a podcast about it back in the day.
2 is good. 1, 2, yeah. It could have been any of those. Just sort of settled on Underground. That's the one for me.
Interesting.
But in fairness, I probably have played cumulatively more of 1 and 2 both. Like I can still remember all the levels in 1 and 2. I don't think I could do that with Underground. My standout memory of Underground is the campaign.
Yeah. Which is a funny thing to say about a Tony Hawk game.
I'm calling
I
it a
remember
campaign.
the story.
Yeah, it's just a story. Yeah. It was peak Jackass. That's what it sort of married up with.
Have you done arcade? Sorry.
Yeah, I got track and field for arcade.
Oh yeah, NFL Blitz was one of my backups for that.
I had NFL Street for my backup for for a sports game.
Yeah, I've never played any of them, but I would like to.
They're cool. The NFL Street was really cool.
I quite liked the NFL arcade thing they brought out on 360, but
yes, that's actually broadly similar to NFL Street. Yeah, you're right. It was just a sort of over the top
6 on 6 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. That was really good. Forget what that's called though. NFL Arcade, is that all it was called?
I think it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was called.
Yeah,
and they all had like the big heads and stuff, didn't it? I think that's why people didn't like it. But me and my friends who were too stupid to play Real Madden loved it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was like simplified.
Yeah. I think I made myself an American account on my PS3 so I could get the NFL Blitz that was on PS3. I could get it.
The other one I thought about in that category, I don't know why we've not gone at this, is Mutant League Football. Was also another good NFL game, sort of American football style game.
Never played it.
There's a lot of good.
Is it like Blood Bowl then?
Mutant League Football
or not? Yeah,
no, it was more like NFL Street in this NFL game. Yeah, it was more of a sort of quick, brutal tackles. No, not really any refereeing version of an NFL game.
Yeah, take it like hitting people after the whistle's gone, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Oh, okay. While we're talking about American sports, then I'm gonna pick the Bigs 2, which is their attempt. I can't remember who made it, but it was an attempt to make baseball interesting. For me, absolutely nailed it.
I've never played this. I'm aware it exists, but that's about all I can say about it.
Now, the MLB The Show games are perfectly good, perfectly serviceable. They're not too difficult to get into if you roughly understand baseball. But the Bigs just made everything fun. It was like a real Happy Gilmore sort of baseball game where, like, there's certain types of like special players that you have on each team, and if you hit like a ball to them on the infield or the outfield or whatever, there'll be like some kind of QTE you have to do, and they'll do like a crazy flying catch.
Nice.
You can build up special meters so that you can do like there's like a risk reward thing where you get like a special meter, and if you use it early you can get like a guaranteed home run. All you have to do is hit the ball to get a home run. You haven't got to like aim it or anything. As long as you make contact, it's a home run. But there's one further than that. If you keep going and you save up your special meter, where you can basically do it 4 in a row, and it like really quickly lets the other guy pitch to these people. So you get like 4 pitches in a row to 4 players, and obviously if you hit with each one of the players, you're going to get a grand slam, and it's just going to go fucking mad. So me and my friend Chris have had some like ridiculous games at this. I basically taught him the rules of baseball, taught him how to play the game, and then he eventually ended up beating me at it. So I'm really like crazy edge of your seat fun times with the Bigs 2, and it's got a really good career mode as well, where you create yourself as a single player, and you start off in like the minor leagues playing for like some Mexican team or whatever, and then
that's cool.
Work your way up to getting into like the all-star game and all that kind of stuff, and it cuts out all the bullshit. So you like whatever your fielding position is, you do a little bit of that, and then you just bat yourself, and then that's it. Like you don't have to watch everybody else on your team bat. So it really like streamlined baseball just to being one guy, and I just loved it. Yeah, it's really awesome. Like easily for me my favorite.
Sounds better than actual baseball
ever. Although I do quite like Ken Griffey Jr. on the N60. The MLB The Show games are fine, but Bigs 2 is where it's at. Like if you're not that into baseball, you don't really understand a lot about it, you don't care about realism or up-to-date rosters, get a hold of that and stick it in an Xbox 360
in terms of like your interest do you like baseball itself? Is that
I went through a period of quite liking it, when I was up in Scotland, and the girlfriend I had at the time, her dad was from the States, and he was he was quite into baseball, so he sort of taught me about it, and I used to watch the Cleveland Indians with him. That was good fun. So I did get quite into baseball then, and I've been to a baseball game, which was actually really fun.
Cool.
Because we were quite near the foul line, so you had to keep your wits about you. You're going to get twatted in the face. And there was like garlic fries and stuff. So yeah, that was really good fun actually, and it was like 4-3, so it actually had stuff happening in it.
Yeah.
I do quite like baseball, but it's just a long investment again, a stupid time of night if you want.
That is it. It's like I love basketball, but there's too many games for me to care about in a season, which means there's too many games that don't matter. Like, and I guess with baseball as well, it's like I don't understand. Like to me, it falls in the same category as like it just seems like rounders to me, which is what we used to play at school. And it's the same thing. It's like broadly similar to cricket. You hit a ball and just run between points, and I don't understand why people like these. Like why I understand why people would enjoy playing them, because I would. I don't understand why people enjoy watching them is where I struggle.
Yeah. So the thing I've always said with baseball is like. This is probably, again, like a layman's terrible explanation of why
it might work for me.
But to me, I've always thought of baseball as the impatient person's way of watching a game of cricket, because in cricket, you could like see a guy just kind of fucking do a safety or whatever they call it in a cricket for like an hour and not get out. But in baseball, in sort of 3 odd balls, you're either going to hit it or you're going home, and it's just there's a constant turnover of. It's like I say with American football to people as well. Like if you like goals in football, soccer, American football, there's basically a chance of every time they start a play, there could be a goal.
Yeah.
There might not be, and there probably won't be. But there's a chance on every single play that he lobs it in the end zone and somebody catches it. And with baseball, it's the same. There's a chance every time that they're either someone's going to get out or someone's going to hit it. And it's like a really quick churn through of players rather than watching one guy do like, oh, you got 112 rounds this afternoon against South Africa for 4 hours. And he had tea halfway through. Like, yeah, fuck off.
It's so funny as well because as much as I struggled to get into cricket, it's so like half of my family are from the borders in Scotland, which is like where the sort of rugby playing end come from. So like they're massively into their sport, but half of their sport in life is rugby and the other half is cricket, and they're mad into watching England play cricket. And it's one thing, it's like I totally get the rugby side of it. The cricket side, I'm just like, what are you doing? I just don't understand this. I've tried my best. I just don't get it. But yeah, that was actually a good. That was actually.
You watched the cricket? Like, no, I hate it.
I did not.
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple more player license games, right? Jonah Lomu rugby, Brian Lara cricket.
Yeah. Brian Lara cricket. Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah, that's a great shout. I guess it's my turn now, and this is probably one of the more obvious picks. But the one that's coming up is a motorsports game. The one I actually had at the top of my list that I'm not going to pick was Project Gotham Racing 3. I absolutely love that game. Such a good arcade racer. But that, as Alex said at the beginning of the podcast, is actually probably not a motorsports game. It's just a racing game. There's not really a sport happening.
Yeah, a driving game or something.
Yeah, so I'm going for Dirt 2. And I bloody love that game.
I'd have never played this without you in my life because you got me into Dirt and rekindled my love of rally games.
It's the best one. Codemasters, Codemasters have like, in my opinion, the best racing game engine, maybe aside from like the people that are less arcade and more simulation. Even Codemasters also make the Formula 1 games, which are also very, very good and also have some pretty decent campaigns. But for me, Dirt 2 is the one. Loved that. And I played that game for months online. Other than maybe Apex Legends, I'm not typically someone that will gravitate towards playing games online. Dirt 2 had me. Dirt 2 and Apex Legends are the two biggies for me that have really got me.
What was the online of that like? Was it just time trials?
It's essential time trials, but so you could pick that you would race in a normal race, but the ones I would go for was essentially time trials, but you would race against people, but you would just see their ghost, so that it was essentially a rally stage, but you could sort of see as you were going where you were sitting within the pack. It's just very, very good. Very, very good.
At the time, game was absolutely gorgeous as well.
Yes.
I don't remember if it was in Dirt 1, but the rewind feature that they put in that was genuinely game changing for that genre, and it still goes today in Forza Horizon.
It does.
This is the Dirt game I've played the most of. I've got Dirt 5 and I've just barely touched it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I've never... I've sort of dipped into Dirt from time to time, but Dirt 2 is one that really got a hold of me for a number of months, but yeah, the others I've sort of dipped into and never fully stuck with for some reason.
In fact, didn't they like sort of earlier in the year do a rally DLC for Forza Horizon 5 as well?
You could be right. You could be right.
And I don't know if we get that as part of Game Pass or if we have to pay for it, but I saw a trailer for it and it looked really fucking good.
Oh, did it?
Yeah,
I need to investigate that.
We need to have a look at this. Yeah. Because we could have some rally fun again.
Yeah, we could.
I'm losing track of what I actually still need to pick because I've not crossed them off properly because my internet is fucking chugging.
Oh, I have. So you've got NBA Jam for your arcade sports game. You've got Extreme Sports Tony Hawk 2. You've got your motorsports game Sega Rally 2. You've got made up sports game Windjammers. You've got American sports game The Bigs 2. You've got Free Pick Virtua Tennis. You've got WWF No Mercy for your sports. You've got Wayne Gretzky's PGA for your Wayne Gretzky's PGA Tour, Wayne Gretzky for your licensed sports. So you still have a soccer game and a 16-bit or earlier game.
That's right.
Pick.
All right, I'm going to go 16-bit then, and I am going to go for Super Punch-Out because, for me, just that bit better than the original NES Punch-Out, which is obviously the one that people play blindfolded these days and blah blah blah. But it just like that game is tough to look at, very very tough to play. Super Punch-Out is also an incredibly difficult game, and this is another game that my friend Simon is far better than me at. But I love the way it looks and I love the way it plays. It's just really, really simple.
I've never played this.
Dodge left and right, use your special things. I think you'd get really into it actually.
Yeah.
It's really not that complicated. And it's just got so much character to it. Like each different box has got their own, obvious sort of almost stereotypical, but not as bad as the original sort of look to them. They've got their own theme music. They've got their own moves that you have to kind of learn the patterns of. It's more of like a puzzle action game than it is an actual boxing game. And speaking of boxing games, there were several that I could have thought of for my free pick.
Fight Night was Fight Night was good for a number of years.
I was quite a fan of Ready to Rumble for a while.
I was about to say Ready to Rumble boxing.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got that Jackson somewhere. At least I used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I had Super Soccer on my list as well as Super Tennis, which were both excellent games.
Super Tennis is so good.
Not as good as Virtua Tennis.
I played a lot of the 16-bit tennis games when I was doing a review of one of the Pete Sampras games. There's another licensed player game. And Super Tennis was by far... Yeah, I think it probably was the best, but there's Namco Smash Tennis on the SNES, which is fucking ace, which you will have on your Switch.
Oh, will I? Okay.
Yeah, so that's worth checking out. I think it's in the SNES like online thing. Really, really good.
Awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, Super Punch-Out.
Great
that's
choice.
My 16-bit game. Potentially was going to be International Superstar Soccer Deluxe on the SNES because that was one of my first football gaming loves. But I will discuss that more in the football game category, I guess.
I'd actually written down ISS 64 in the 16-bit or earlier sports game and then realised that it wasn't 16-bit. So I had to delete that and go pick a new one.
There's a hint there.
I still have to pick, by the looks of it,
free pick.
I've got my free pick and I've got a sports entertainment game. So we're going to dive in with sports entertainment game. I actually cannot decide. So my top three that I'd written down for this game is, my number one was WCW versus NWO Revenge. Then I had number two, WWF No Mercy. Then I had number three, SmackDown 2. I actually think in the cold light of day I'm going to plot for SmackDown 2.
I think you should.
Absolutely adored that game.
To see the N64 and PlayStation ones go against each other just like back in the day.
Yeah, I think that's going to be fun. This, I remember, like, obviously it's like SmackDown came out and just sort of blew the doors off of the wrestling game genre in my mind. Like, it just, like, it was quick, fast. It felt
so
like
quick.
It felt like that sort of era of WWF, and yeah, it was just the SmackDown 2s where they sort of took the formula on in terms of the gameplay that they had nailed, and then just built on it. So this is what I'm pretty sure you could go backstage in SmackDown 2. You certainly got like casket matches, Hell in the Cell matches, cage matches. Like they just sort of built on this, and you could make your own card. So you could like go and making your own show and just put all the card together. It was just such a good wrestling game. Awesome.
Yeah, and you made a good point there actually. Like I suppose the N64, the games there were like building on the formula that was made by the WCW original. In fact, even before that, there was a couple more like Japan only sort of games, and they were very like closer to what would be described as like a simulation of wrestling back in the day, where it was like a little bit slower, a little bit more precise. But SmackDown really like encompassed like the attitude of WWF attitude at the time, where, as you say, it was fast, it was brash, it was flashy, it was pick up and play. Whereas the N64 ones were a lot more like, you know, the purists wrestling game. SmackDown was just pure fun and nonsense from the start.
Yeah.
And I basically bought. Well, I didn't buy because my sister already had a PlayStation, but I stole the PlayStation off her to play SmackDown 2. And then I remember the first, because I had an N64 the whole time before that. The first ever PlayStation magazine I bought had a book in it that had all the special moves for SmackDown 2.
Oh, nice. Do you know what as well is in terms of like where the PS1's concerned with the SmackDown games, it also made them much more engaging. I mean, up to that point, it was the Acclaim.
They were fucking terrible.
Warzone and Attitude games where like to do a finisher, you had to memorize this like 12 input code just to be able to do a stunner or something like that. Whereas like they just simplified it, and this was a THQ joint, wasn't it? So like THQ just, I feel like over multiple generations, including the No Mercy and WCW versus NWO games, like THQ just knew how to make a good wrestling game, and they just showed people how to do it. Much like earlier on, we're talking about racing games with Codemasters having the great engine and stuff like that, and making some of the best racing games. THQ back in the day, they made the best wrestling games.
Definitely. Some of the PS2 ones, although KDB's been bitten by them in the other draft, are still absolutely excellent.
There's a lot.
One of my other
there are a lot of them are good.
I think that's the best.
Yeah. Know Your Role. It was another one I remember liking, but I don't even remember if it was a good one. It was just really, really fun making your own wrestling.
Was that not number 2? Know Your Role. Was it Shut Your Mouth? Oh, hang on.
Shut Your Mouth, Know Your Role. Yeah, that's right.
Let me see what number 2 was. Hang on. Yeah, Know Your Role was SmackDown 2.
Oh, SmackDown 2, Know Your Role. Shut Your Mouth is the one with The Rock on the PS2. I remember having I played a lot of that one then. Shut Your Mouth.
But that one had Hogan in it.
Probably.
One of them had Hogan in it. For like the first time in ages, where he was back in the WWF after he'd been retired for a while. And that was a big deal back in the day.
I think those games get a lot of bashing, but I think for a number of years the sort of PS2 era SmackDown and then SmackDown versus Raw games actually were quite good. They were fun. They were like we've spoken about before. They were very iterative, but they were actually good games. I don't know if this is controversial or true even, but in my memory, like, the problem with the wrestling games always came at the sort of generational jump. So they'd move from the PS2 to the PS3, and instead of continuing to build on the basis they had, they would sort of almost reset. So they'd go back to like the first gen era of a PS2 game, but with better graphics, and like strip out mechanics, and then over the course of the generation to slowly add them back in, rather than sort of moving the game as it was over and then building upon it on the building blocks from that. Yeah, so they sort of created the I mean, I was going to say created the feeling, but it was a demonstrable fact that instead of being an additive game, they were taking stuff away and then slowly giving you it back over the course of the generation. And I think that's what, at least from my view, turned a lot of people sour on those games, and they've just never really been great since, have they? But the PS2 era was a really strong era for wrestling games, even if they don't score well. Like KDB, every time KDB's picked one, it's been a great game. It's just he's just not rolled the dice in terms of the critics, I guess.
I guess this brings me to finally pick a football game.
Yeah, I can't believe it's taking you to the end to get knee deep in some soccer.
So I originally was thinking like it's got to be Pro Evo 4, and then I had a little look around sort of the opinions of everything and Metacritic and stuff, and Pro Evo 6 seemed to be the highest scoring one. So after we talked about it on the draft, I went and bought Pro Evo 6 and remembered playing it quite a lot, and gave it a play yesterday. Had a 0-0 draw and was like, I'm remember this being more fun than that. So then I was like, you know what's always fun? Guaranteed Sensible Soccer, which of course you then picked as well. So I think, other than Go Pro Evo 6, I think I am going to go with ISS 64 because
that's a great game, really good game.
It really is.
I've written ISS 63.
It has an incredible front cover of the box where, in fact, I'll show you. That I've always found it funny that for some reason on this box, like it's got loads of different nationalities, but everybody is chasing after the German guy, which I always find quite funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I think, this was probably the football game I played the most for that entire generation. Up until like people started to show me like what I suppose it was called ISS Pro Evolution at that point was doing. But a friend and I would play this like every day we hung out, which was basically every day. The scenario mode they had in ISS 64 was
oh my god, yes,
brutally hard.
Oh, it was so good though. It was great. It was yes,
like,
that was amazing.
4-1 down as Netherlands versus England win the game in 5 minutes or something. It was so hard.
That was awesome. I forgot about that.
And like trying to get yourself even a yellow card was near impossible because it just didn't seem to care about any rules. It's just prison rules football. Through balls constantly with top C. And again, it was quite similar to Sensible Soccer where you could do these ridiculous swerving shots from miles out of the area if you knew how to wangle the analog stick correctly. So, I think you've probably got two better football games. But this is it's just a classic for me. I still want to play 2000 where it had like an RPG mode in it. I need to play that one day.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed.
Do like a little football player RPG in the middle of an ISS game. Sounds like it'd be wicked, but I've never actually gone down and sat and played it.
Yeah, add that to the list behind the football RPG games that I need to play at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great shout. Yeah, that was actually really good. And also, like, so I would sort of couple that with Sensible Soccer that we had spoken before and Super Soccer, in that these were the games that I think it's important to sort of time and place these, because these were at an era where like there was obviously like predominantly international teams that came at the cusp, sort of just at the end of the time where like you would get to a World Cup or maybe not so much a Euros, but certainly a World Cup, and teams would come along that you just knew nothing about, like Colombia. You'd be playing, I was like, I don't even know any of these players, and they'd be amazing. Yeah, which is a
good job because most of the players were made up in ISS.
Yeah,
it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah,
like Duckham or whatever his name.
I remember Duckham, and there was a player that played for Germany called something Plank, and those are the two that stick out in my brain. But that's a great choice. ISS 64. I'm well in for that.
Yeah, because football games really, really struggled to move into the 3D era.
They did. It took them a while.
There were so many, like, you could look at PlayStation 1 and N64 and there'd be so, like, FIFA 64 is a just disgusting video game. There'd be some on PlayStation, there's some on Saturn, like Sega Worldwide Soccer. There's just some absolute shite. This was such a cut above everything else. Like, even FIFA at that point. Like, Konami was making like the gold standard football games for that era. From like the SNES for the ISS Deluxe to this.
I'm sure This Is Football must have been around that era as well.
Yeah. Probably Red Card or whatever it was that you
Red Card was fun, yeah. This Is Football was not bad. But my memory of that is they had a handball mechanic. So if you tried to slide tackle someone and didn't nail your slide tackle, you would get blown up for a handball all the time.
Stupid.
It was like 6 handballs a game. This is not real. Get this out of here. The biggest anathema to me, well, is anathema the right word? Will always be FIFA 96 that had the dive mechanic. I don't think I ever made that work once.
Yeah, that's
96 or 97, maybe 99.
The Pro Evo that I play now, there's a dive in that, and the computer's done it to me a few times, and it always gets booked. I've never seen it win a penalty against me by diving. and I've had some like near rage moments where like, and because I never play with the commentary on because I can't hear it anymore. And like I say, I play it while editing the podcast. So I'll be sitting there like throwing my hands in the air, and then the referee will book the player who got fouled, and I'm like, oh, yeah, they did a dive, brilliant.
That was funny.
So funny.
We got we spoke earlier about Scott and I making up our football game.
Oh, that was Scott, was it? Okay.
Yeah. Scott had the same rage with you with the commentators, so we used to have to play with like Spanish and Swedish commentators on because he just
I tried
angry.
that for a while on FIFA, I remember as well, yeah. Like, I can't hear this anymore. It's the same lines over and over again. Put the Portuguese on and hope they go, goal! Right, free pick. I'm excited for this.
Well,
like there's a really obvious one.
No, you're going to be really unexcited by this, because I can't remember what my third pick was because I've overwritten it with your Virtua Tennis. But it's going to be Rocket League for me, and my other backup was Windjammers because I was like, I loved Windjammers, but obviously you've picked that for your made up sports game, so yeah, I'm going Rocket League. I love Rocket League. I think it's great. It lives to this day. It is one of the success stories of PlayStation Plus, one of the first games that came out in PlayStation Plus. It is a game that I also think shows that if you stick with an idea that you think is good, you sort of hone it, because it was an iteration of super.
I was gonna say, good luck remembering that.
It's basically rhymes with supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, doesn't it? A bit. It's like
super something robot football or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a great game, and I'm kind of with you in that. Like, I don't really have any interest in ever playing it again. But
everyone's got good at it. It's not fun anymore.
Yeah, it's actually one of those things that, like, when you and I played it, we never ever managed to get our head around how to use the sort of flying mechanics that you can do in that game, and we hit a sort of stage of competence in the rankings where people were starting to learn how to do that and we weren't. And it was either, do you commit to learning this or do you move on and play a different game? And we moved on and played a different game, but I do appreciate it, and I like the way it was supported. It is like I just like
it on PS Plus when it first came out was a stroke of genius.
Yes,
it blew the fuck up from that.
I absolutely loved that game, and I am more than happy to make that my free pick because I think that is one of the standout non-sports games of the last 10 years, perhaps.
Absolutely. There was people going on like it's the best football game ever made.
Calm down.
For a while.
But and they were always American, weren't they? But just calm down.
So you didn't mention what I thought would be the obvious choice for a free pick.
What was that?
Care to hazard it? I'll give you a musical cue, shall I?
Yeah, give me a musical cue because I'm struggling. Wii Sports.
Yeah. That would be my idea for what would be the ultimate. Well, because I wanted to go like legit with Virtua Tennis, but surely Wii Sports has been the most played sports game ever.
I have mixed. I was going to say relationship. My relationship with it's largely positive. I've got mixed feelings about Wii Sports because obviously, like, you look at the sales in that game.
Nintendo's biggest seller ever still.
Yeah, and you look at the success of the game and you look how that drove the sales of a console.
Yeah.
I also, as much as I enjoyed those games and had many a good night playing those games, had a great time with it, and you can't deny its financial success, I've got a slight caveat with the road that it sent Nintendo down for a few years, and I'm talking purely selfishly as me as a gamer, in the type of games I look for. It sent them down a road that made them feel like they weren't making games for me anymore, which they weren't. And yeah, there's a slight, as much as I love that game and I do like that game, and even if you put it in front of me today, I think we could fill an entire evening having a great time with that game.
As long as it's bowling.
As long as it's bowling. I think that I am also slightly... I'm trying to think of the right word. I'm slightly annoyed at it in terms of, like I say, the road it sent Nintendo down over the last over years subsequent, and I think sort of decisions they made after that in terms of like games they released, and even with the Wii U, were largely based on the Wii, and they had to go on a bit of a journey to realise that you've got to, yes, if you can hit that sort of saturation point and hit the mainstream in a way that obviously video games are mainstream these days, but if you can sort of hit that point where it goes over it, you can make a lot of money, which is what obviously Nintendo are going for. You can't bank on them as returning customers, and you've got to do the Super Mario games, the what's it, Mario Wonder that's coming out. You've got to have the Zeldas. You've got to do things like that, and to keep your sort of core fan base on side, so that you can then shoot off and look for that. And I feel like there's a 5, 6, 7 year period where Nintendo forgot about the people that got them to where they were, and I think that's largely because of Wii Sports.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can totally understand why you would have a negative retrospective feeling about that game.
As important it is to the games industry, right? It's massively important.
Yeah. But that's it. That's our picks. So you go, if you want to go through your list, I will then say what my pick is for each category after you've said it. So like,
okay. So I've got an arcade sports game in which I picked International Track and Field 64. We have a football game.
Oh, hang on. I'll do it like immediately after.
Oh, right. Okay. So.
And I have NBA Jam Tournament Edition.
My next one up is a football game / soccer game, depending on where you're listening to this from. And I have selected Pro Evolution Soccer 4.
And I have International Superstar Soccer 64.
Next up, we have the Extreme Sports Games category, in which I have picked Tony Hawk's Underground.
And I have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
After that, we've got a 16-bit or earlier sports game. I have selected Sensible Soccer.
Bastard. And I've got Super Punch Out.
Up next, a motorsports game. I have picked Dirt 2.
I have Sega Rally 2.
A player licensed sports game. I have gone for Tiger Woods PGA 2004.
And I have got Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey.
Great pick. A made up sports game. I've got Speedball 2.
I have got Windjammers.
Too strong, as in TWO strong picks there. A sports entertainment game. I've got SmackDown 2.
I have got WWF No Mercy.
An American sports game, NHL 94.
I have got The Bigs 2.
And our free picks, I have gone for Rocket League.
And I have Virtua Tennis.
That's a strong list of 20 games there.
Yeah. So all that's left now is probably an hour or so after this has gone live. Head over to @WinnerIsYouPod on Twitter, and there'll be an option to vote for who's won the draft. Is it me or is it David? You decide. Tell your friends to vote.
Tell your friends to vote.
Please vote. Tell people to do it.
Yes, because if people will vote, we can do this again, and the winner of...
Yeah, we'll do different genres because we're excited by these.
We can do different genres, and the winner of this genre can pick first next genre.
Totally fair. I'm with you. Yeah.
And I suppose that brings us to the end of another episode of the Winner Is You podcast. If you liked what you heard, and even if you didn't, why not give our numbers a bump by subscribing to our podcast on your podcast feed of choice? Or, if you prefer to imbibe your podcasts in a visual format, you can head over to our YouTube channel and search for A Winner Is You podcast, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, as I've said about 3 times now. Well done, David. Well done. Well read. If the podcast isn't enough of your bi-weekly dose of Winner Is You chattery, you can also follow us on that microblogging website by searching @WinnerIsYouPod. And you can even send us an email to tell us how wrong we are about our gaming opinions by writing to awinnersyouPod@gmail.com. Alex and I also have a presence on the website formerly known as Twitter, @DavidSmiley1 and @SuperThrillix respectively. I will warn you all that the Rugby World Cup starts on Friday, so if you can't handle any rugby chat in your feed, do not give me a follow. Alex, have you got any housekeeping?
No, it's the same as the last pod. Just looking forward to getting Metal Gear done and potted about next time around.
I can't wait. I started Metal Gear today and I'm having the time of my life with it. So there's your little...
Very, very cool.
Yes, it's very anime and very 90s.
Yeah.
And on that bombshell, I've been David, he has been Alex, and we have been the Winners U, and I'm out.
Gaming. That was my Solid Snake impression.